Looking through the archives of Resident Evil, you'll find many creatures that were cancelled from the games they were meant to be included in, and in this video, we'll be taking a look at some of those disturbing creatures that surprisingly never got officially released. Let's begin. Weskers Monster. Weskers Monster was a monkey-based creature that was designed to be included for Resident Evil 0 on the Nintendo 64. It was presented in a 2015 developer diary video during the production of the Resident Evil 0 remastered version. In the original storyline of Resident Evil 0, Albert Wesker was going to be the main villain of the game, and this monster was going to be the creature that kills off the STARS Bravo team members. But when the game ended up being remade for the GameCube, changes were made and Wesker was dropped as the game's main villain in favor of the mysterious young man due to problems trying to connect Zero with the first game. So Weskers Monster was changed and redesigned as the Eliminator, the infected monkeys that did make it to the GameCube version of Resident Evil 0. So for this one, it was the creature's original design that was cancelled, and not the creature itself. Zombie Wildcat. The Zombie Wildcat was a creature that was meant to be included in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. It was going to appear in the Raccoon City Park, but if you remember what enemies you find in this particular area, you'll realize that the Zombie Wildcat ended up being replaced by the Hunter Gamma, as they are seen everywhere throughout the Raccoon City Park. It would have been interesting to see Zombie Wildcats included in the game, especially since the Hunter Gammas ended up appearing in Resident Evil Outbreak series, and various others. So the inclusion of a Zombie Wildcat would have been something very interesting to see in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. It could have made an appearance in the Outbreak series, appearing in the Raccoon City Zoo, but by the looks of it, it only got as far as the concept art sketch, and the Zombie Wildcat was forever rejected. Zombie Ape. The Zombie Ape was meant to be included in Resident Evil 2. You may remember it making an appearance in the early stages of Resident Evil 2 known as Resident Evil 1.5. The Zombie Ape did go further than just reaching a concept art design. It made it into the game itself. You can see that the creature can hang on the ceiling panels from the ventilation ducts and swing around like an ape. But even though the creature was complete, it still ended up being rejected from Resident Evil 2. The story behind it was that a number of local animals such as the zoo animals ended up being infected, and apes were some of the animals that got infected, and the way they'd be presented was by bursting out of an umbrella truck that was in the RPD's parking lot, suggesting that the apes were bioweapons that were being transported. The concept art and the in-game model are very different from each other, and the in-game version seems to be closer to resembling an ape rather than the concept art. They're both unique appearances, and it's a real shame that this creature ended up being cancelled even after having a creature model and AI already complete. The Man Spider. This cancelled creature is one of the most terrifying creatures that could have been included in Resident Evil 2. The Man Spider was going to appear in Raccoon City's underground lab, where it would escape and attack anyone that goes near it. In one of the trailers of Resident Evil 1.5, we can see that the G-Virus infected William Birkin is fighting against a Man Spider, demonstrating the game's choreographed cutscenes. And just like the Zombie Ape, the Man Spider's model and animations were completed, but surprisingly, it was still scrapped, and it is said that the Licker was its replacement. However, the Man Spider was said to appear in the underground lab of Umbrella, and the Lickers make their first appearance near the beginning of the game. It's not a sure thing whether this is true or not, but let's hope that the remake of Resident Evil 2 can go ahead and include the Man Spider, as it appears to be one of the scariest designs that the franchise ever rejected. The Laughing Killer. The Laughing Killer was originally going to be introduced in Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. The Laughing Killer had two anchors attached to its arms. These would be the weapons that replace its arms, and from the concept art we can see that he would have used them to hang from ceilings, possibly moving similar to the Chimeras from Resident Evil 1. There is a possibility that the Laughing Killer was an early concept that was replaced with Jabberwock S3, seeing as the Jabberwock has multiple limbs with anchor-shaped claws like the Laughing Killer, but it has never been confirmed yet. Tyrant Inferior. The Tyrant Inferior was a creature that was intended to appear in Resident Evil 2. It was going to be a zombie which had undergone a mutation, and according to a note written on the concept art of the Tyrant Inferior, the mutation is not unique and is statistically present in large hordes. There isn't much else that's been said about this creature. If it was meant to be a zombie that mutated and became a tyrant of its own, then that could mean that multiple zombie tyrants would be loose, which would have been a great addition to include in Resident Evil 2, because seeing as the tyrant was the main boss of Resident Evil 1, then seeing many zombie tyrants in the sequel would have been surprising to see. The transforming creature. It is not known exactly which Resident Evil title was meant to have the transforming creature, but there were two designs made for the creature. In Design A, we see that there is a female test subject wearing an umbrella branded gown, and she transforms into a creature with a pair of extra eyes in her forehead and with arms that would mutate into mouths halfway between the wrists and elbows, even including sharp claws and tongues. Design B was a far less humanoid version than the first, with much of her body being salivating mouths. There's even a mouth and tongue growing in the back of her head. It also looks like there are additional mouths growing around her body, as saliva and teeth can be seen with them. We can also see how the transformation creature would have attacked its victims. The way it would kill its prey would be by using its arm mouths to bite down on the victim's arms, preventing the victim from using any weapons and basically leaving them defenseless, and devour the head of its prey. The example used in this concept art was Jill Valentine in her Resident Evil 1 uniform, so it's possible that the transformation creature was meant to appear in the first Resident Evil game, but this is yet to be confirmed. The Mimic Creature. The Mimic Creature is the most interesting of all cancelled creatures. Mimic is another rejected creature design that was going to be in Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. Seeing that its design was going to resemble the Plant 43 creatures, this could have been a reason why it ended up being scrapped, but even though it would have been an added creature to the story they showed based on Resident Evil 2, it would have fit in perfectly, as there are many different types of plants that could have been used to experiment on, so the Mimic Creature could have been introduced as another plant creature. However, this was not the only design made for the Mimic Creature. This is another concept art based on the Mimic Creature. This design appears to have tentacle arms and legs, with the head and torso that almost resembles a stingray. Maybe the artist was going for a water creature design, which does appear to look quite terrifying. Now, in this image we are shown how the creature would move. It has a turbulent flow, and the scariest thing about it is that it can easily camouflage itself with the environment. Shown in this concept art, we can see that the Mimic Creature would be able to camouflage itself with rocks, trees, branches, walls, you name it. If anything, this would be the perfect creature to face off against. I'm not sure if it would have been found in the Resident Evil 2 segment of the Dark Side Chronicles, but one thing for sure is that this creature should never have been cancelled. If anything, it would have added a scary creature that could surprise attack you when you least expect it. If you've seen the 2017 movie Life, then you'd know that the Mimic Creature could have been the scariest creature of them all. If Capcom takes another look at the cancelled creatures, then hopefully they can add the Mimic Creature to the Resident Evil 2 remake. And that's it for this video. There will be 3 parts on this segment, so be prepared for more cancelled creatures to be presented. Be sure to leave a like, share with others, and subscribe if you haven't. I want to give a big thanks to all my Patreon supporters. I am very grateful for your support, and this video is for you guys. And for those of you who haven't, be sure to check out my Patreon, and if you'd like to support the channel, you'll get additional content and more just by donating at least $1. It'll help me get a new computer to continue making more videos like this one and faster content as well. The link to my Patreon is on the description, as well as my Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, where I post all sorts of random stuff for you guys. But anyways, I'll see you on the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.